ABVD is tough. It's a tough regimen. I pushed for the 6 months just because I felt like, I don't know, I really want to just slam this thing. I want to just one and done. If there's any chance of relapse, even by 4 months, I started to feel like that Mack truck feeling is what I call it. Just really tired, and I'd lay in bed for about 3 days after every ABVD. My mom called it the lagoon. Oh, is she in the lagoon? Because I would just sort of lay there and with the light off, and so yeah, the fact that I was advocating for more, I just yeah, it was, I really didn't want to do it, but I thought if this does anything to positively impact my survival, then I wanted the more aggressive treatment. For me, it was hard to figure out the toughness of things. Like, was it just the chemo? Was it the meds they were giving me to help with the side effects of chemo? Um, and so that was kind of hard to sort out at various times. Nausea was a big issue for me. So I was on a lot of different anti-nausea medications, Zofran, Ativan, I think Phenergan. I was getting steroids. Um, and I think I also had one or two times Zyprexa, which is sort of a antipsychotic medication that's used in the psychiatric community. And for me, that medication was horrible. Like, I was a zombie for days, and I couldn't think at all. Like, worse than the sort of typical chemobrain. It was like, I really can't put any sentences together. And so I think that's one of those things, like, you're sort of trying these different medications for nausea, vomiting, and some things are going to work for some people, and other things are going to work for other people. So I think it's just important to know what's out there so that you can ask for it. And so in the first 2 months, my cough, like, it's like it melted and my cough went away. And then at about 2 months in, I started getting a cough, and I was on ABVD. And so there was some concern, especially since I'm a runner and I want to be able to run in the future, that I was having some bleomycin toxicity. And that's one of the sort of more well-knowns. So I think at the time we just thought, we don't even want to chance it. And there's actually a new trial that had just come out called Rothel, like RATHL. And that trial showed that therapy can be de-intensified if the 2-month PET scan looks good, meaning you can go down from ABVD and drop the bleo anyway, even if the person's not having cough or side effects. So for me, it was like, hey, this trial just came out. When I brought it up, she was like, yeah, it seemed reasonable. And she worked with me on that. And I was really appreciative. Because bleo toxicity and yeah, it's just, running is my life. It's my coping skill. They knew about that up front, that was a very important, aspect of my life, and that we wanted to kind of preserve that. So that's what I did from months 2 to 6. And then I had my end of treatment PET scan, and it looked great. I was in complete remission. We celebrated that first night, and I have this whole photo shoot and videos.
Happy no more chemo to mommy.
The kids sang me happy no more chemo to mommy instead of happy birthday. And I remember the visit. I think it was either video or in person, but my doctor said, you're in complete remission. You need to go on a vacation. And I just sort of thought, what? Like, I just didn't, I wasn't feeling well. I felt really beat up. I didn't feel right. I thought something wasn't right. And I just didn't trust that things were okay, because I didn't feel okay. But I also, my health really declined over those 6 months. I gained a lot of weight from the steroids. And it was, the more weight that I gained, the harder it was to sort of manage further gain. Like, it just sort of spiraled out of control. And also, when I was finally declared okay and no evidence of disease, that's when I just took a nosedive into severe depression. Like, that came for me sort of after the physical recovery started. Like, my counts were starting to come back from my last chemo, no evidence of disease on the PET. Felt like I was starting to potentially get out of the danger zone. And then I just I just sort of fell apart. This was so scary. I really just felt, you know, I couldn't concentrate. And I didn't know if it was just the accumulation of all the chemobrain is such like a broad term that people use, but for me, it was always really a combination of like, you know, severe sadness and difficulty functioning like in everyday life, difficulty remembering things, difficulty doing like what I would say are like executive functioning tasks. Like if I only have one thing to focus on, it's fine. But when I'm going through an episode like that, it's like give me a list of groceries to get at the store and it's going to take me twice as long to sort of find my way around, or can I multitask and cook a dish while my kids are talking to me, and that would be really difficult. And so a combination of that and remembering who I was just 6 months before. I was like a highly functioning person, and it was such a I felt like it was such a far fall for me. And even though now I know I have a lot of I've done a lot of frame shifting in a more positive way, but I just was really comparing myself to where I had been, and I was so scared that I would never come back to what I was, even though I did.
Chemobrain's a huge thing. Is another thing I struggle with. Like just maybe counting or reading things in like large portions is difficult for me. Trying to comprehend stuff, it's not the easiest thing in the world. You go through like this thing during chemo, like you just turn into a different person. You're not happy, you're not joyful, you're kind of mean. So chemobrain is for sure a thing. It's just cloudiness. I remember one of the very first moments I remember like having like chemo brains, like my buddy was over with his girlfriend and we were eating dinner and we were talking and I looked right at him and I couldn't think of his name. And I've said his name a million times. And it's like, I know who you are, but I just can't say your name. And I would say just like the fogginess of chemo brain and just like being able to like remember things and process things a lot quicker than or slower than people. Just like thinking of what to say like quickly and respond quickly. Sometimes it's difficult for sure. It's definitely something that you have to deal with. And I think when you're going through treatment, you kind of have to play those mind games. You have to like do word puzzles just to get your mind going. You can't like stay stagnant because you're just going to kind of rot. And like I was always told, do crossword puzzles or write things down, just kind of keep up with it because it does destroy it just makes you just so cloudy and foggy and you just forget things very quickly. Like I have my wife like just remember like, hey, what did I do? Like, what did I say? And like it gets better for sure. But it's definitely something that like you have to deal with, and you're kind of embarrassed because you don't want to seem stupid, you don't want to seem dumb, and like you just forget the things to say or like the right word to say, and like you're like, I've done this before, like I know. So for example, like I cook in a restaurant, so like when I look at a line of tickets, it's kind of hard to process everything that like that's going on. Like the bullets are flying, but like it's kind of hard to like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and then you kind of forget about it and you gotta keep looking and you gotta like it takes just longer to process things. So I think just keep on your toes when you're going through treatment. Just do like just keep your brain going. Don't just like sit there and watch TV all day. Just try to like keep just your brain working for sure. Yeah, chemo brain is definitely something that's difficult to kind of explain because it's just you don't like I said, you don't want to be embarrassed because it's definitely a thing because you just don't want to sound silly when you're speaking. My initial thoughts were more of just like it might be just a fogginess, just like maybe a little forgetful. I mean, I never thought I would forget like my best friend's name for sure. Like that wasn't something I would think about, but I definitely thought like I would just be cloudy or just like not be able to remember some certain things for sure. It's still a thing. I definitely, like I said, like if you're when you're going through stuff, like make sure someone's with you for sure because or write things down or even record it because you can always go back to it because you can't like alter recording if you have it all written or recorded because you might forget things when you write stuff down. So just chemo brain is a really huge thing. I think it's not really spoken about or talked about because going through treatment, yeah, it is a thing, but like when you're out of it, like I've been past 3 months and it's still a little difficult trying to like comprehend everything that's thrown at me. And it's almost embarrassing to kind of like track back, but you just kind of have to like buckle down, like think about it. I would say like, I mentioned this to my friends when I'm writing something down, I have to think about it really hard. And like for a normal person that didn't go through chemo, you don't think about it. You just do it because it's something you've been doing since you were a kid in school, just writing things down. You just got like now you got to like think about how you're writing it and what you're writing about. like texting is very difficult. Like I have to like read a text like 3 or 4 times before I send it so I don't sound like illiterate. So it's very hard and difficult. Something like that. Like that's a pretty good example. Like just trying to text somebody and like they're like, "What did you say?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry. Like I forgot like a few words." But like it's like what I was saying in my head is what I wanted to say, but it just didn't come out that way. I think just I'd say, like I said, like just not stagnant. Just like keeping up with things. Like don't let yourself rot. Really, just keep yourself active as much as obviously you possibly can, because there's a lot of things you don't want to do. Like you're not going to want to do really anything. For my chemo brain, like I'm not going to forget. I'm not going to remember how I felt 2 weeks ago from something that I was on so many pain meds or drugs on. So I'm just going to write this down so I can revert back to it how I felt then. Um, I think writing things down is a huge tool for someone that might have chemo brain. And I think it's probably, like you said, it's a huge topic, how someone should really, it's a topic of itself. It's just another battle really that you're going through when you're going through and like trying to live your life and trying to survive really. So I think just having someone around you for sure, helping you process it, because I think chemo messes with you from your head to your toes for sure. It makes you emotional, it makes you upset, it makes you mean, it makes you happy. It just messes with everything. So your feelings are just out of whack. So like having someone around to kind of validate and try to like settle you down for sure. Yeah, like chemo brain doesn't only affect like your comprehension, but it also messes with your emotions for sure. And like you could be running hot one day, you could be really sad one day, you could be really happy one day. So just having someone around you, like, okay, situation isn't as bad as you think it is right now. Just relax and just take a deep breath and just like allow the process to kind of like play itself out. And if there's anything happening, you just hit up your oncologist or your nurse practitioner or whoever you need to, and just reach out to them immediately to find something wrong, because your brain plays games with you when you're going through this. Like you just every pain, every like bump, every bruise that you're like, what is this? What is that? So the brain plays games on you, and just having someone around 24. I know it's hard for people to have 24/7. I was fortunate my wife worked from home and she took care of me every day, every second. She sacrificed, and she definitely helped me navigate through that mental part of everything for sure. So just have someone around you at all times, I think really helps you.